My name is Christy Aloisio, and I am a counselor at Healing Hearts of Indy in Indianapolis, Indiana. We do individual, marriage, couple, and group therapy at Healing Hearts of Indy. Today, I want to talk a little bit about when you should come to marriage counseling. I would say, unfortunately, a lot of the couples that come in and see me are coming in to see me because of a crisis situation. So there's been an affair that has happened, somebody has an addiction that's getting out of control to the point where they're experiencing consequences that are affecting the marriage, that the couple feels like they're going to get divorced, and this is kind of the last-ditch effort. So, I have a lot of those couples that are going through big kind of crisis type events that come in to see me. And I will say that doesn't mean that they're a death sentence to the marriage, so to speak, because they come in so late, but it does make things more difficult when couples don't come in until their marriage is in crisis. It's like, to me, it could be compared to a medical condition. If somebody has a medical condition that they don't go to the doctor and is left untreated, it just is going to continue to get worse and worse. And when they finally do go see a doctor and get in, oftentimes the treatment may be longer and more extensive and painful and require more medication because the person waited so long to come in. If that person maybe would have sought medical treatment early when before it was a bigger issue, sometimes the treatment is shorter and not as extensive. And I feel like marriage counseling is very much the same. Give me a couple who's just starting to have some issues they want to work through versus a couple who, has had an affair. Obviously, the first couple's experience won't be as long and quite as painful or difficult. Not that they won't have things to work on, but, it won't be as extensive as a couple where they're really at the point of, where divorce is a possibility. So I say this and just, encouraging people to come in early. So why don't people come in early is an important question. And I think part of that is there's a stigma around marriage counseling or just counseling in general in our society. If you go to counseling, you must be crazy, or your marriage must be really bad, you must be getting a divorce, you're going to get a divorce, things are really bad if you're seeking out counseling as a couple. And it's really unfortunate, I think, that we have that stigma, because I do think that prevents people maybe from coming in sooner rather than later. I mean, lots of people who come in here say, oh, I wish we would have gotten counseling sooner, or I thought about getting counseling sooner, but maybe because of the stigma or other issues, they weren't able to make it in earlier. And so it does make their treatment and their counseling longer than maybe what it would have been. So why come into marriage counseling? What is important about it? I will say that it's hard to see our own dysfunction, and it's hard to see our own issues. So it's so easy to look at somebody else and say, well, if he did this, his life would be better. If she blah blah blah, then things would be fine. She should. If they went on more date nights and made their marriage more of a priority, they would be better. Doesn't she see how distant he is? Shouldn't she say something? He's so distant, maybe an affair is going to happen. These are all things that are easy to say when looking at another couple and looking at it from an outsider's perspective. These are all things that would be really difficult to turn around and say to yourself or about your marriage. So if a marriage, excuse me, is in a place where they're very disconnected and an affair might happen, the one spouse may, it's too painful the thought that might happen, or it's too scary, so it's easy just to deny that that's going on, or there's some normalcy to it. Maybe they grew up and their parents' marriage was really distant and separate, and so for them it just seems normal for the marriage to be that way, or it doesn't bother them maybe as much as it would bother somebody else in that type of relationship. So there's lots of reasons why it's hard to see our own dysfunction, mainly because it's ours. It's normal. It's stuff that we do every day. It's ways that we grew up. It's all stuff that is like our paradigm, the way we look at the world. So it's hard to look at that and say there's something wrong with it, or this isn't working. And it's really hard to be the spouse on the other side that's like, hey, we never do anything. We're very distant. What's going on? And the other person's like, well, I feel like we're fine. And so it's really important to have a non-biased, non-emotional, non-reactive person to kind of almost help translate that a little bit and help to see, help you see why your spouse sees things differently than you do. It's often, for an example, a wife would come in and say, I've been trying to get him to see that we're really distant and that we're not close enough, and that worries me, and that an affair is going to happen, or I'm just in a lot of pain because we're not very close and I feel alone. And the husband's like, well, I thought things were fine. And so if you go and really start digging into his past and you find out his parents' relationship was very distant, then it's not for a malicious reason that he's not hearing his wife about her issue of feeling like he's distant. But for her, it can feel like he's ignoring me, he's not hearing me, he's malicious, he doesn't get it. And I'm kind of the one to help put the patterns and the pieces together to say, here, this may be why he feels this way, and this is why he reacts that way. And then the wife can say, oh, I understand it, I get it. And then, that's the point where we try to have some change, and just having empathy for why somebody else feels the way that they do is really important and can be really helpful in marriage. And another reason that marriage counseling is really important is feedback is really hard to hear from your spouse. Everybody marries somebody that is perfectly good at pushing our buttons, and a lot of times they're like, boop, boop, boop. They know exactly which buttons to push to kind of get the reactivity and the emotions to come out of the other person. So a lot of times it's hard to hear feedback because you're so used to the buttons being pushed that you're just ready to go, whether the feedback is good, bad, or indifferent. So sometimes hearing some bold, honest, real feedback from somebody who doesn't push your buttons can be really helpful. It can really help you understand yourself and understand your relationship. And you're just too close in your relationship to be able to take the 10,000-foot view to step back to see what's really going on. You're the one in it. You're the one spinning in it every day. It's causing you a lot of pain and distress. So when you're in the midst of that, it's really hard to be able to take the broader look out and say, this is what's really going on. And that's where I come in, and that's how I help couples to be able to see that. When couples come in crisis, we spend a lot of time dealing with the crisis that we don't get to that part for a while, a little ways on, and that can be the part that really helps people start connecting better and feeling better as a couple. So, marriage counseling is important. If you wait so really long, then a lot of times I'm dealing with years, decades of anger, resentment, and bad feelings, and we don't want to do that. So I'm just encouraging you at whatever stage your marriage is in, unless you're in the honeymoon phase, because then people don't always have things to work on. But if that's starting to wear off and some real issues are coming up, because every marriage is going to have them, and you want to kind of nip those in the bud, so to speak, before they get to the point where there is a crisis, that's great. And if you're in crisis and you need help and you need a third-party interpreter, I'm here for that too. So if you have any other questions or ideas that you would like me to do videos on, please contact me. My name is, or my email address, is Christy at healingheartsofindy.com. That's CHRISTY at healingheartsofindy.com. Thank you.